This chapter is called Around the World. Marty walked across Kenya and Tanzania, among the elephants, impalas, zebras, giraffes, lions, leopards, rhinoceroses, and baboons. The rain had let up, and the clouds had started to clear. He had to give Noah Blackwood credit. The guy knew how to display animals. They looked like they were wandering across some grassy savanna. There had to be barriers, but for the life of him, Marty couldn't see what they were. It looked like the lions and leopards could pounce on any other animal, which would make it interesting for a zoo-going experience. Excuse me. But it would be kind of expensive, he thought, and totally unfair to the prey. They wouldn't have a prayer getting away. His gizmo vibrated. Another text from Luther. Dylan's in. I'll keep you posted on our positions. Out. Marty shook his head. Apparently Luther had forgotten that they were all wearing tracking tags. All he had to do was look at the gizmo to find out where they were. Dylan was in the Sumatra near the orangutans, and Luther was in South America near the jaguars. Wolf's jet was in Brazil, presumably parked at an airport ramp, because Phil and Phyllis weren't moving. Anna and Laurel were about 10 miles west, heading up the Amazon River toward the Lança Jaguar Preserve. They weren't wasting any time, which he was glad to see. Marty wished he was in the real South America with Laurel Lee and Anna Micah. He put the gizmo in his pocket and decided to loop back around to the Congo again. The path was shadowy and thick with green foliage, but that's where the resemblance to South Africa ended. There were no swarms of blood-sucking, stinging, biting insects, no venomous snakes dangling from branches or slithering over his sneakers, no razor-sharp thorns slicing through his skin, no heat, no humidity, no sour scent of rotting vegetation. It was completely sanitized Congo, kind of like the public image of the lovable Noah Blackwood, Marty thought as he looked overhead at the colorful chattering parrots. He couldn't see a net or glass and wondered what kept them from flying away. Do you work here? A woman's voice asked from around the corner in front of him. No. A man's gruff voice answered gruffly. Get your kids out of the way. I'm kind of in a hurry. Marty nearly fainted. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just asking, the woman said indignantly. There's no reason to be rude. Whatever. Marty would have recognized that voice anywhere. Mr. Whatever was none other than Butch McCall, and he was coming Marty's way. Marty tugged down the brim of his baseball cap and looked back down the path in panic. The next nearest bend was 20 yards away. He'd never make it before Butch rounded the corner, and Butch would recognize him whether he was coming or going. He dove over the short fence into the bushes and immediately clamped his hand over his mouth to muffle his scream. He had just discovered one of the ways Blackwood kept his animals in. Electrified wires. He scrambled away from the hot strand and hunkered down just as Butch came walking by. Butch's black beard was back, as was some of the weight he had lost when they stranded him and Blackwood in the Congo. He looked to be in a hurry, but when he got parallel to Marty's pitiful hiding place, he paused, as if he sensed something wasn't right. He looked up at the parrots in the trees. Marty held his breath. His heart was in his throat. He was afraid that Butch could hear it pounding. If Butch looked down, he'd see him. There was no place to go. Butch would grab him and try to finish what he had started aboard the coelacanth. Butch's cell phone rang. He reached into his pocket, looked at the screen, and shook his head in disgust. Yeah, I'm in Africa. I was just about to go out and run some errands. These aren't the kind of errands someone else can do, but yeah, I get it, but I babysat her all morning. Okay, I'll be right down. Marty knew there was only one person Butch would submit to like that. But was the baby he was complaining about Grace? Butch put the cell phone back in his pocket. Marty continued to hold his breath. Butch didn't move. Apparently right down did not mean right then. Butch looked up at the parrots. Marty knew from experience that Butch was not a parrot lover. Parrots didn't like him either. He was missing part of his earlobe, torn off by Wolf's African parrot, gray parrot, Congo. Butch reached up and touched the torn lobe with a frown. The woman and kids came around the corner. Butch glanced at them, glowered, then hurried away. Marty let a breath out and waited a moment before getting slowly to his feet, trying to avoid the wires and another jolt of electricity. The woman and the 3 children, twin boys, maybe 2 years old, and an older girl, watched him emerge from the bushes. "Do you work here?" the woman asked. "No," Marty answered, brushing the dirt off of his pants. "Then what were you doing down in the bushes?" Marty climbed over the fence. He looked in the direction of Butch, that Butch had gone. I was just coming up the path, and some guy pushed me. With a black beard? Was he big?" "That's the guy. We saw him too," the woman said. "I told you we should have gone to see the giant squid," the girl complained. "We need to find security," the woman said. "This needs to be reported." Marty wished he'd told a different lie. The last thing he needed was to attract attention to himself with ARC security. For all he knew, Butch could be in charge of security. "Oh, it's no big deal. He was in a hurry. I just got in his way. It was really my fault." "Oh, that's ridiculous," the woman said. "And that's the other thing about this place. The only staff members I've seen have been in the concession stands and gift shops. Where are all the keepers and the groundspeople?" "They're probably at the Northwest Zoo and Aquarium looking at the giant squid," the girl said. "Would you let it go?" the woman snapped. "You've been whining about that stupid octopus all morning. This was the absolute perfect day to visit the Ark until we ran into that bully." "It's a squid and not an octopus," the girl said quietly. One of the twins started crying. The other twin looked happy to see his brother's tears. "Now what have you done?" The girl hadn't done anything, as far as Marty could see. He was beginning to understand why Butch didn't want to stop and chat with them. Not that he would have, even if they'd been the nicest people on earth. The happy twin pointed up into one of the trees. "The tree is taking our picture." Marty looked up. He was right. A video camera panned to the right. A second camera panned to the left. He pulled his baseball cap even further down on his forehead. My parents are in South America," Marty said. "I'm going to catch up with them." "What about that creep who knocked you down?" "Oh, I'll tell my dad about it. He's a cop. He'll know what to do." His dad was actually a journalist, but he would know what to do. So would his photographer mother, if only they weren't helplessly lost somewhere in the real Amazon. Marty ran into the nearest restroom, found an open stall, and closed himself in. It was the only place he could think of where there wouldn't be a camera. He launched the Dragon Spy. He wanted to find out where Butch was going. He wanted to find out if he had been talking about Grace. He flew the bot over the mound, the squid girl, and the twins. He flew over Asia, past tigers, gaurs, and elephants. Butch wasn't there. He flew across South America, past tapirs, 3-toed sloths, jaguars, ocelots, butterflies, vultures, and other aggressive an aggressive hyacinth macaw who tried to bite the bot in two with its massive black beak. He ditched the bird by diving underground into the Amazon exhibit, where a big crowd was gathered, watching a giant anaconda swallowing a rabbit. Among the faces staring through the glass was a pale, bald head with nicks and scabs. Luther was scarfing down a hot dog with one hand and had a spare clutched in his other hand. Marty called him. "What's up, Doc?" Luther asked, with a bun-filled mouth. "What are you doing?" "Oh, watching an anaconda eat Bugs Bunny." "You can't believe how long it's taking." "A lot longer than it takes to eat a hot dog." Luther's head whipped around looking for him. "Look, Mommy, a dragonfly," the little girl standing next to him said. Luther looked up and grinned, then started on his spare hot dog. We're supposed to be looking for Grace, not watching snakes eat rabbits," Marty said. "I get that, but she could have come here at any time." "Not likely. Crawling animals make her skin crawl." "I can't believe her." "It is kind of creepy." Butch McCall is creepy too, Marty said. Luther stopped chewing. What do you mean? I just saw him. Where? Africa. Where is he now? Out of Africa. How'd he look? Homicidal. His beard is back. I overheard him talking on his phone. He had to be talking to Blackwood, and he didn't mention her by name, but I'm pretty sure they were talking about Grace. What about her? Marty was about to tell him about the babysitting remark when on the gizmo screen of the gizmo he saw something that turned his blood to ice. Don't turn around, he said. Luther started to turn his head around. Do not turn around, Luther froze. Butch McCall is standing 10 feet behind you. Okay, now we're switching to Grace. Grace ran up the stairs to her bedroom, wondering what had just happened, or what is still happening. One of the strange design features of the mansion was that all the windows were 5 feet off the ground. She supposed it was for privacy, but blinds would have been cheaper and a lot more convenient. She pulled the chair over so she could see out. It looked like a normal late afternoon at the zoo. Families walking along the paths or sitting at tables outside concession stands eating. People heading through the front gate to their cars. Nobody coming in. The pitiful tour had ended on level 3, with Noah insisting that there was nothing to see on the other levels. They took an elevator up to level 1, where Noah disappeared into the office for a minute, then came out saying he would walk her back to the mansion. They got up to the ground level, and by sheer coincidence, they ran into Butch McCall. Noah asked Grace what time it was, even though he was wearing a perfectly fine watch on his wrist. She looked at her expensive watch with a fake expression of pleasure and told him it was 3:45. I had no idea it was getting so late, Noah said. I have an appointment. He locked eyes with Butch. Do you mind walking Grace back to the mansion? Sure, Butch said flatly. Grace had seen this dance before. She was being handed off. When Noah had slipped into the office on level 1, he had called Butch to intercept her. I know the way, Grace said. I'm sure Butch has other things to do. Oh, nonsense, Noah said. Butch is here too. His phone chimed. He pulled it out of his pocket and read the message on the screen. A look of alarm crossed his face, but just as quickly it went away. Oh, we're in luck. My appointment has been canceled. I'll walk back with you. Grace could not imagine anyone canceling an appointment with Noah Blackwood. Noah handed his phone to Butch. Can you take care of this for me? Butch read the message on the screen. Oh, yeah, he said with a slight smile. I can take care of that. Where do you want me to put, He glanced at Grace. Where do you want me to put it? Someplace safe. Call me when you have it stored away. I'll take care of the coverage. On the way to the house, Grace had asked Noah what it was. Oh, nothing to concern you. He had answered, sliding his keycard through the front door lock. I have some calls to make. I'll see you at dinner. Then he walked into the library and closed the door behind him. Grace continued to look out her bedroom window. She had an odd feeling, a feeling she hadn't felt since she thought Marty was her twin. Back then, she could feel Marty's presence. There were times when she felt that they could communicate with something like telepathy. She was tempted to use the secret passage to try to sneak out and find out what was going on, but she couldn't, not with all the surveillance cameras on the ground. If she went out during the day, someone was sure to spot her and report her to Noah. Then he would know that she knew about the passages. Were they talking about Marty? She wondered, searching the ark. Is he out there?